the way that you saw the vendor hall set up, it was still very much like Transworld in the fact that there was a lot of commercial entities there, creative lighting displays. There's at least four Universal Concepts. There were at least 4 or 5 of the Christmas vendors that were there from Transworld. So it tells you that Transworld does step over into the DIY land, but also they step into the commercial land, which I would consider that Transworld's more commercial.
And it'll be interesting to see in the coming years how maybe the lines between the shows blur a little bit, not in terms of, Expo becoming like Transworld or vice versa, but in terms of commercial and DIY, because it did seem like like you were saying, Clyde, the DIY side at Transworld was certainly the much smaller than the commercial side, but coming not as a vendor, but more just from an attendee standpoint, it was really just about all of the things you could go out there and do and see, versus I think you kind of had to, just hang out at your booth.
I have the different perspective because I literally was in the booth the whole day, 8 hours standing in the booth. I did not leave the booth until I want to say Sunday before lunch, and I got to walk around the Christmas area. So I barely got to see, the only time we got to see the Halloween side at all was after everybody was kicked out and the place got locked up. We shut down for the day and we'd walk through different lanes. Rob and I went live in Facebook, and we would walk through the different lanes and show people pictures and stuff. But that was our experience of Transworld. We were just so busy as a vendor to be able to go and walk around and be able to experience what you guys as attendees were able to experience. So there is, just like you said, Dave, there's a whole different world that you might extrapolate from that I could.
So I kind of wanted to ask, as somebody who'd never been to any of these kind of expo events and stuff like that. So what's kind of like the expo floor like? We're talking about Transworld right now. So what was this, David, you would probably be a good one, JR, somebody that basically wasn't a vendor that was able to kind of walk around. How was it to be able to kind of meet the vendors, kind of communicate with them, see what they have? How did that kind of feel? I
think for Expo, and I think one of the high points of Expo is you go on the floor and you're just walking. It's everybody that right? It's all the people in our community. Transworld's an entirely different situation. Everybody is dressed Gothic. And it's a different crowd of people, but you go on the expo floor and it's just kind of like, as Jules put it, JR found his people. You get there and it's your people.
Well, the thing is too, yes, they were all Gothic or no clothes. There was that too, David. Painted. There was painted clothes.
PPX.
But yeah, there was a decent amount of Halloween people. Like a majority of the people at the show were Halloween in their black Halloween shirts from their haunts they work for. And then there was us in bright colors walking around looking like Christmas all on our own.
I think I got flipped off a couple times actually, but all in good jest.
Yeah. The Halloween people were a lot of fun. And I did get ideas from the commercial Christmas people that were there on how they did some stuff with their commercial trees and commercial props and stuff like that. I did, let's say, steal some ideas for my personal display on, I can make that. That's cool. I'm not going to pay that for it, but hey, I can make that, and then I got a ton of ideas in Halloween, tons, with the stuff they had moving and the way they did stuff. I had more fun, I think, looking at Halloween and trying to figure out how I can make what they had work for Christmas.
And couldn't you look at that stuff and it was like, hey, that's $1,000. I bet I could build that for 50.
Well, yeah, that was. I was thinking that all the time when they had their air cylinder animatronic stuff, and it's like, wow, that's like $20 a part, and they want $450 for it. Okay, but there were so many ideas over that whole place.
Yeah, I feel like we can all really learn from each other. There's a little bit of crossover there.
Yeah, a lot of the Halloween guys were super into the pixels.
So what? Oh, so daytime
again. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I don't want to talk over you. I'm sorry. No, we've covered pretty much through the vendor hall during the day, the classes and stuff. What about the after hours? I know you guys did some pretty crazy stuff, going through some tunnels, not getting stuck in them or almost getting stuck in them. But the nightlife or the after hours that you had at Transworld. Escape room, I think David mentioned. There was some other things going on. What were those all about?
Well, the escape rooms were actually in the trade show.
Oh, okay.
On the floor, I think.
You could, in the floor, you could go through an escape room or do a VR escape room. There was, because it's Halloween, escape rooms, and Christmas all at this show.
Well, they have something going on every day, right? But again, keep in mind, this has been going on. I forget how many years they've been doing this on the haunt side. So they have a vampire circus that's really big. They have, a lot of the venues at night. There's always something going on at night. And then, I think on the Christmas side, they did the City Museum party, right? Which I think may be both. And that's what you were talking about, Brian, where they have the City Museum and we went to. But really, a lot of the attractions were geared towards the haunt side. And I think this year they're probably going to look at adding more on the Christmas side. So, but there was always something going on at night.
And they had the brew tank night as well.
Yes. For Christmas, they had the City Museum, but that was kind of for every attendee. It wasn't just designated for Christmas. They had the Christmas mixer one evening where it was just a room with some snacks and drinks, and you could socialize with other Christmas people. We did that for a second, then we went to barbecue on our own. But then we had the think tank party, which I believe is going to be next year, but maybe a little different, bigger kind of thing. But you didn't have to just go to Christmas stuff. Like there was a escape room mixer that we could have went to.
I feel like you kind of glossed over this whole City Museum thing.
Oh, I was going to talk about it more.
Okay, because this is like the best.
Well, you got to say the good stuff. I mean, come on.
I was trying to go over everything and then get back to the City Museum.
Okay. All right, get back to the City Museum.
And then there was the vampire ball that Halloween does, which people dressed up for. I didn't go to it this year, but some of the Christmas people did go to it, and they had a great time at it. It's this huge party they have called the Vampire Ball, which looked awesome. They had the Vampire Circus, and then they had a couple other like mixer things that you could go to in the evening time. And then the opening night party is the City Museum, which is probably the most epic adult playground place I've ever seen in my life. It is, I think it's 10 stories tall. Each floor has some different crazy maze thing it's like a kid's Discovery Zone or like tube place, but made out of metal and for adults.
So see how JR is having trouble explaining this? Every time I try to explain someone what we did there and what this place is, it's very, very difficult to describe other than it's just an adult playground.
Yeah, it's
so fun. It's so fun. And it's exhausting too. You got to bring knee pads because you're like crawling and climbing and going down slides.
That's where the tunnels came in and all that.
Yes. When I walked into that place and I saw these Halloween people with headlamps and knee pads, I was like, what the hell are we getting into?
Put that on the list in the Get Packed.
Yeah. Headlamps and knee pads.
You'll go down a path and then it'll start getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And then you realize you're just at a dead end and now you got to back.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We had like 10 of us in a line and there's this crack in the wall, like literally like this crack in the wall in between skateboard ramps. Literally like a quarter pipe and stuff. And then you go in this crack in the wall and it's like this maze and you go and then you drop down and you're like bent over. Then you go through this maze and then you bend over, then you're crawling. And then you go and you keep going to the point where you're on your belly and then you realize you can't go any farther. And then you got to try to get 10 people on their bellies to turn around and get out.
I'll put a GoPro with somebody and it'll live into that way.
It was fun.
Pretty extreme.
And it was one of those places where nothing was off limits in a sense. So like if you saw something like a hole in the wall or a hole in the ground or this crazy like chain link staircase it kind of looked like, but it wasn't really, and it kind of looked sketchy, and you climb it. And then you go through it and you end up somewhere cool, like some secret area. It was crazy.
For Californians like me and JR, this is just like a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Oh yeah.
It's just really surprising that this is a children's museum and they just let kids go wild in here too.
Yeah, I ripped my pants. Almost lost my wallet.
They have a 10-story slide.
Yeah. I almost passed out going up the stairs to it.
It's by far was the highlight for me. And honestly, I would go out there just if that was it by itself. It was so fun.
Those of you that have been to both, Expo's like 3 days. That's nothing other than classes or no real vendor hall that you go to, correct? So you kind of get stuck and all you're doing is classes all day if you choose to, or hanging out wherever the show happens to be. Is that correct?
Not so much. It's not a strict regimen. But the idea is there's two reasons to go to trans. Well, there's a couple reasons to go to trans. The main reason you're going to go to the main reason you're going to go to Expo is going to be you're going for either classes or you're going because you want to learn. You're new. You're trying to get a feel for this crazy thing called Christmas lighting that's animated and over the top. And then there's the second side of it, which is you're going to enjoy time with people that you share the brotherhood and the sisterhood of Christmas lighting with. And I think the latter is what you evolve to. But there's so many good classes. I mean, there literally is there were 5 rooms and every hour was a class. So you had the choice of which class to go to, and sometimes you had to make tough decisions. I want to go to the underwater basket weaving class, or do I want to go to Keith's class and learn about X-Lights? The difference between Transworld though would be I don't think the classes were that fast and furious. Although I did teach one class at Transworld, but that was for, once again, that entire class that I did teach was 100% commercial. It had nothing to do with any DIYers. It was a specific. It was one. You might consider it as like something that like X-Lights, like Sean and Keith did ahead of time, or where you had Lightorama did an immersion class as well. That's kind of what it was there for. And I had my chance to participate in something like that. But I think going to Expo versus going to Transworld, you're going for people who are very like-minded to the hobby. Not saying that you don't see that at Transworld. We certainly did see people, and maybe it's because it was my first year. You would see that in the Halloween side because they've been doing it for a number of years, but you didn't. The DIYers were together over in the Christmas side, but also we were able to go out and meet not just like our competitors, but other people that were in our industry. So it was definitely a different experience.